In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, July 21st, here in Capital's Hall. North Korea's Defense Minister Kang Sun-nam says the recent deployment of a U.S. nuclear-capable submarine to South Korea's port city of Busan provides his country with legitimate ground for a nuclear weapons response. And top nuclear envoys of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan meet in Tokyo and highlight the importance of cracking down on illicit activities that fund North Korea's hostile weapons ambitions. Meanwhile, Seoul's Finance Minister Chung Hwan vows to hammer out a comprehensive financial support plan for all those affected by the deadly downpours in recent days. South Korea has warned yet again that a nuclear weapons assault by North Korea will result in the demise of the regime itself. The latest warning follows North Korea's claim that the docking of a U.S. nuclear-armed submarine here in South Korea is reason enough for a nuclear retaliation. Our Shin reports.
South Korea's defense ministry responded to North Korea's warning of nuclear retaliation with a warning of its own on Friday. The ministry said that just as South Korea and the U.S. made it clear during the NCG meeting, North Korea will face an immediate, overwhelming, and decisive response in the event of any North Korean nuclear attack against the alliance that will result in the end of the North Korean regime. North Korea has heavily criticized the docking of the USS Kentucky, a nuclear-capable strategic submarine in South Korea, and the launch of the South Korea-U.S. Nuclear Consultative Group as a blatant and direct nuclear threat. North Korea's Defense Minister Kang Sun-nam, in a press statement released by North Korea's state-run Korea Central News Agency on Thursday, called the situation the most serious stage of the U.S. planning and executing a nuclear strike against DPRK. He added that the DPRK's law on nuclear force allows them to take a necessary course of action when it is clear that a nuclear weapons attack on the country has been carried or is imminent. Kang emphasized that the deployment of strategic weapons such as the nuclear-capable submarine falls under the conditions of North Korea's nuclear doctrine that allows the use of nuclear weapons in retaliation. He also said that using military force against North Korea will lead to disastrous consequences for both South Korea and the United States. The USS Kentucky arrived in the southeastern port city of Busan on Tuesday, the first port call from a U.S. ballistic missile submarine in Korea in 40 years. On the same day, the first meeting of the South Korea-U.S. Nuclear Consultative Group was held in Seoul. The Pentagon responded to the statement on the previous day, saying that the submarine's port call to Busan was a planned military exercise stemming from South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's visit to Washington in April, emphasizing that the move was part of its commitment to extended deterrence in response to North Korea's continued nuclear threats. The port visit was also referred to as a representation of South Korea and the U.S.'s ironclad commitment to defense. The Pentagon also said that South Korea and the U.S.'s efforts to protect their citizens from North Korean nuclear threats do not violate UN Security Council resolutions, unlike North Korea's nuclear provocations. 이수진, Arirang News.
Over in Tokyo back on Thursday, top nuclear delegates representing South Korea, the U.S. and Japan have reaffirmed their commitment to cracking down on illicit financial flows to fund North Korea's weapons of mass destruction. Our foreign affairs correspondent Peunji reports.
South Korea's top nuclear envoy Gov't has highlighted the need to strengthen trilateral cooperation between the U.S. and Japan to cut off illicit funding for North Korea's ballistic missile and weapons programs. He said this while holding a trilateral meeting in Tokyo on Thursday afternoon with his American and Japanese counterparts, Sung Kim and Takehiro Funakoshi. Noting that Kim Jong-un has reached a dead end, Gov't said that at the top of their list is repatriating overseas North Korean workers and clamping down on malicious cyber activities. He also added that they will look for further action that can be taken to close the loopholes in the sanctions that are placed on North Korea, and said they're still open to talks.
We will strengthen our close communication and coordination to bring North Korea back to the path to denuclearization.
The U.S. nuclear envoy also said Washington remains committed to achieving denuclearization.
Our security commitments to our allies and partners are ironclad and unwavering, and we will continue to take steps to demonstrate our commitment to extended deterrence.
The three officials last met in person in Seoul this April. Thursday's meeting comes a day after North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles in an apparent protest against the arrival of an American nuclear ballistic missile submarine in South Korea, with the new Seoul-Washington security dialogue taking place for the first time on Tuesday. The regime also launched a solid fuel ICBM last Wednesday. The talks also come at a sensitive time after an American service member crossed the inter-Korean border into North Korea, fleeing before being sent back home to face military discipline. 배은지, Arirang News.
Right, and the fate of the American soldier who bolted across the border into North Korea remains unclear. Now, this is according to U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller on Thursday, who refrained from a direct response to questions about whether North Korea had replied to U.S. requests for information on Travis King. He, however, pointed out that the White House, the State Department, the Pentagon are working together to ensure King's return to the U.S. and his family. In Ukraine, the southern city of Odessa has come under alarming air assaults by Russia in recent days following Moscow's decision to step back from a deal that supported the shipping of Ukrainian grain to global markets. Our Isingjae has the latest.
Ukraine is struggling to defend its southern city of Odessa following 3 consecutive nights of attacks. According to Ukrainian Air Force, it destroyed just 5 of 19 cruise missiles overnight into Thursday, a far lower success rate compared to previous attacks targeting Kyiv. Ukrainian officials say it's due to less advanced defense systems operating in the southern regions of the country. The Russian Defense Ministry says these strikes were retaliation for the Ukraine's attack on the Crimean Bridge earlier this week, adding it targeted facilities linked with Ukraine's seaborne attack drones. However, Ukraine has refuted the claims, saying Moscow is targeting civilian infrastructure associated with grain exports, especially as it refused to renew its grains export agreement on Monday. Among the buildings damaged in the attack on Odessa was the Chinese Consulate General. A Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said it's assessing the extent of the damage and offering any assistance needed. And according to UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has strongly condemned the sustained attack on Odessa. The spokesperson added that the attacks have consequences well beyond Ukraine, as a negative impact on global wheat and corn prices is already being seen. Meanwhile, the U.S. sanctioned more than 120 Russian and Kyrgyzstan firms on Thursday for what it said were their contributions to Russia's war on Ukraine. The U.S. State Department said the latest move would further cut off Russia's access to critical raw and manufactured materials, which finance the production of weapons. Also included in the list of those sanctioned is a North Korean who supported the Wagner group by helping with the shipping of weapons to the mercenary group. Isingjae, Arirang News.
Lives were lost, people displaced and property damaged amid the recent rainfall, and Finance Minister Chung Hwan has pledged a comprehensive financial support plan for all those affected. Our Moon Hye-ryun covers his remarks.
The monsoon season, which has devastated the country for the past few weeks, caused significant damage to infrastructure, farmland and residential areas. Finance Minister Chung Hwan addressed these problems and laid out a plan to support those affected at an emergency ministerial meeting on Friday. With more than 17,000 people being displaced from their homes due to heavy rain and over 2,000 still unable to return to their homes, the government will be using the budget set aside for natural disasters to fund the restoration of residential areas. Tax support for those affected will also be provided, such as a temporary extension of tax payment deadlines. Farmland was also heavily damaged in the downpours. Over 340 square kilometers of farmland was submerged in water, 6 times more than during last year's monsoon rain. For scale, this is the equivalent of nearly 50,000 soccer fields.
The government will come up with a sufficient compensation plan as quickly as possible by evaluating the damage and actively taking suggestions from those on site.
The plan includes funding for restoration to compensate for damaged crops and equipment, as well as for livestock killed in the flooding. Farmers affected will also be able to claim insurance within a month of claiming for their crops and land. And as a consequence of the flooding, prices of food products such as lettuce and chicken are expected to become increasingly unstable.
The government will attempt to stabilize the supply chain by funding the replantation of vegetables in greenhouses. A tariff rate quota will also be introduced for 30,000 tons of chicken by August, along with the importation of 5 million fertilized chicken eggs and funding of around $62 million to increase stocks of chicks. Furthermore, people will be able to enjoy up to 30% discounted prices for products affected by the rainfall until the supply chain has been stabilized. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, wholesale prices fell for the third month in a row in June. According to the Bank of Korea on this Friday, the country's production price index, an indicator of future inflation, dropped 0.2% on month. The trend comes amid lower prices for industrial products such as petroleum, chemicals and basic metal products, despite jumps in electricity and gas prices. However, it remains uncertain whether the trend will continue, as prices of agricultural products are expected to rise this month amid the recent torrential downpours. Samsung and LG have topped a U.S. customer satisfaction survey for home appliances this year. According to global industry tracker JD Power on Thursday, appliances made by the two Korean companies scored the highest in 9 segments out of 12. The rankings were based on a study of over 20,000 customers who made purchases in the past year in 6 categories, including brand image, pathway to purchase and problems encountered. Samsung and LG were praised for their side-by-side refrigerators, microwaves and washers, as well as dryers. Now, last year, the two companies ranked first in 6 out of the 12 segments. Establishing an environment for innovation is the first step to sharpening a country's edge over global competition. Accordingly, 7 regions nationwide will be granted government support to transform into special clusters for technological advancements. Our Lee explains.
The government has designated 7 regions across the country as what it calls special clusters for national advanced strategic industries to foster the growth of cutting-edge technologies, and into which it will invest 614 trillion Korean won, or around $483 billion. The announcement was made by the Office for Government Policy Coordination after being finalized at a related committee meeting presided over by Prime Minister Han Duck-soo.
The South Korean government will give all directional support for these special clusters to become global innovation areas with internationally overpowering production capacity.
The designated clusters are Yongin and Pyeongtaek in Gyeonggi-do Province, Gumi and Pohang both in Gyeongsang-buk-do Province, Cheonan and Asan in Chungcheongnam-do Province, Cheongju in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, the Saemangeum Coastal Region in Jeollabuk-do Province, and Ulsan Metropolitan City. 21 regions applied for the government designation and support, but only the 7 were selected, based on criteria such as the presence of innovative enterprises in the region, investment plans, and potential for growth. The clusters will focus on advancing technologies in semiconductors, displays, and rechargeable batteries, among others. The special clusters will receive, quote, a comprehensive support package, such as expedited government approvals, tax benefits, and budgetary support. Additionally, in the second half of the year, a pan-ministry council will be formed to provide a one-stop support service for the clusters. Meanwhile, the government also selected 8 universities, including Seoul National and Seonggyungwan, to advance the cutting-edge technology required by these industrial clusters. To support them, the government is going to invest 54 billion Korean won to set up interdisciplinary curriculums and recruit talented teaching professionals. These moves follow a promise made by President Yoon Suk-yeol at an emergency meeting on the economy back in March.
오늘 발표된 국가 첨단 산업단지 조성이 신속하게 추진될 수 있도록 정부는 모든 노력을 다하겠습니다.
The government is also looking to expand the list of universities that it will support as it seeks to foster qualified talent that industries are looking for. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Korea's second moon mission following its lunar orbiter Danuri is a lunar lander to be launched in 2032. Now, this latest ambition begins with the making of next-generation launch vehicles to take that lander to the moon. Chung Hwan has more.
South Korea plans to launch 3 next-generation space launch vehicles from 2030. After two preliminary launches in 2030 and 2031, the country hopes to send a lunar lander to the moon's surface in 2032. The next generation SLV will be more than 5 meters taller than the Nuri space rocket's 47.5 meters and also equipped with more powerful engines. Unlike Nuri, which has 4 75-ton engines in its first stage booster, the new SLV will be equipped with 5 100-ton engines. Nuri's second stage also uses a single 75-ton engine, but the new rocket will be equipped with 2 10-ton engines in its second stage. Based on a target altitude of 700 kilometers for its first launch, Nuri can carry a 1.9-ton satellite into Earth's orbit. The SLV's thrust-to-weight ratio is 3 times that of Nuri's maximum, enabling it to carry a payload of 1.8 tons into a lunar orbit, which is 380,000 kilometers away from Earth. The next-generation rocket also has improved engine efficiency by utilizing a different type of turbopump, which is used to inject fuel and oxidizer into a combustion chamber. Nuri emitted the gas used to run its turbopump as exhaust, but the next-generation launch vehicle recycles it through its engines.
Combustion occurs to operate the pump, but there's still the possibility for heat generation after that. It would be more advantageous in generating momentum to recover the remaining heat and send it to the combustion chamber again, rather than disposing of it.
The Ministry of Science and ICT plans to appoint a manager for the SLV project by next month. It also plans to select a private systems integration company to participate in the project from the initial stages of development in October. 정은주, Arirang News.
Threads is the latest online platform launched to rival Twitter as the app for real-time social interaction. So what has been the public response thus far? Our Arirang tells us.
We've seen one of the fastest sign-up rates for a social media app. It's Threads. While not social media, if we take ChatGPT as an example, it took 2 months to reach 100 million accounts. Threads reached that in less than a week. According to South Korean real-time data service WiseApp, more than 1 million people in South Korea signed up for Threads within 5 days of its launch. Threads is a text-based social network service that resembles Twitter. The app was built by the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, Meta, which means users can link the two social media apps, making it very easy for the 2 billion Instagram users to open a Threads account. Meta even said Threads will be, quote, powered by Instagram. And some recent controversial decisions made by Twitter and its owner Elon Musk have triggered some users to migrate to other apps, including Threads. In March, Twitter launched a new monthly and annually paid subscription service. Users also now need to pay to have a blue verification tick. So you have to pay to use Twitter without restrictions, as it limits you to read 1,000 posts a day for free.
This seems very timely, and I'm sure they've been working on it for quite some time, but this was perfect timing with just the latest sort of little fiasco on Twitter with Musk rate limiting users and all that stuff. So yeah, the timing was perfect, and so it's not too much of a surprise, as expected in a way. Yeah.
A lawyer for Twitter, Alex Spiro, sent a letter to Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg accusing the company of engaging in, quote, systematic, willful, and unlawful misappropriation of Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property, demanding that, quote, Meta take immediate steps to stop using any Twitter trade secrets or other highly confidential information. But we might want to keep an eye on whether to find out if the arrival of Threads means the end of Twitter. Threads has not been released in Europe yet due to the Digital Markets Act, which bans U.S. big tech companies from dominating the European market. But there is a high possibility, experts say, that the service will be introduced there in a very short time. However, we have already seen that some new social media services come and go rather rapidly. For instance, Apple's Clubhouse, where people could communicate in audio chat rooms, went viral in the pandemic era. But with some social media services, the novelty wears off. As for Threads, users have complained that the app drains their batteries, so it still has some things to overcome to become a major player in the market. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now.
We begin in Belarus, as its defense ministry on Thursday confirmed that fighters from the Wagner mercenary group have begun training Belarusian special forces. The training is taking place at the Brest military range, just 5 kilometers from the border of NATO member Poland. The announcement comes a day after a video was released, appearing to show the mercenary group leader, Yevgeny Prigozhin, in Belarus, welcoming Wagner fighters. Poland, meanwhile, has increased defenses on its side of the border since the start of July, adding over 1,000 troops. And its defense ministry says it's ready for various scenarios. Russia has called Poland's move to up its border defense aggressive and a cause for concern. Iraq on Thursday expelled the Swedish ambassador in Baghdad over a diplomatic dispute involving the burning of the Quran in Stockholm. Iraq also recalled its charge d'affaires in Sweden and suspended business with Swedish companies. Hours earlier, Iraqi protesters stormed the Swedish embassy and set its compound alight. This comes after the Swedish courts, under the right of freedom to assembly, gave permission to anti-Islam protesters on Thursday to burn the Quran for a second time outside the Iraqi embassy in Stockholm. However, protesters this time did not torch the book, but kicked and stamped on it. Protesters had previously burnt the Quran outside Stockholm's main mosque in June. And finally, martial arts fans gathered at Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour on Thursday to mark the 50th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death. Meeting in front of a statue of the martial arts master, fans paid their respects and could be seen practicing his signature moves. Born as Lee Junfa in San Francisco in 1940, Lee was raised in Hong Kong. He got his start as a child actor and started learning kung fu when he was 13. He was best known in the 1960s and 70s for his martial arts talent and for fighting racist portrayals of Asians on screen. Lee died in 1973 from an allergic reaction to painkillers when he was 32. His death came just 6 days before the release of his most popular movie, Enter the Dragon. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's Jungbok today, which is supposed to be the peak of the summer heat. And to live up to its name, most of Korea is experiencing another day of blistering temperatures with heat alerts remaining in place. Please drink plenty of water and avoid being outdoors during the hottest parts of the day. And also have a small umbrella handy in case of sudden showers. There will be passing rains of 5 to 40 millimeters in most inland areas. Sunny skies are boosting UV rays to very high levels on this sweltering Jungbok day, and afternoon highs in central regions are nearing 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Well, weather like we are seeing today, the combination of heat and high humidity can quickly cause heat-related illness, so take care of yourself. Meanwhile, Jeju Island will see monsoon rain returning late tonight. It will rain heavily on Jeju tomorrow, then on Sunday, it looks like it will pour down all day in central parts of the country on Odesa, the last summer season term, meaning big heat. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That ends our afternoon newscast, but do stay with us for our panel session coming up right after this break.
to Good Morning Seoul.
And we're broadcasting to you live from Seoul, South Korea. This is where you can get
interactive radio that you can watch and listen to. Enjoy Radio Clock with me.
Connecting Korea and the world, Arirang Radio. It's our 20th anniversary of our station. For you, wherever you may be, and for 20 years like a friend, as a messenger, and as a partner. We have shared countless happy memories, and this might just be another beginning. As you've done for the past 20 years, and for the next 20 to come, join us on Arirang Radio. Always Korea, always Arirang Radio.
Contour the world, simply contour. India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand. Woo!
I'm excited. Are you excited?
Of course.
Yeah.
Music, start.
I'm live.
저를 도와주시는 분들이
저희와 함께 해주시는 세션분들
아무리 봐도 없지 펜션 같은데 아니라고 아무도 안 하는 거고
좋아요.
솔직한 사랑 표현법을 담은 곡입니다.
동시에 느낄 수 있는 곡인데요.
내 목소린 널 입술
뮤직.
Pudang Mud Festival opens its doors today until the first week of August, offering grown-ups and children alike the chance to indulge in a wide variety of mud play ranging from mud pits, mud slides and even music by the muddy sunset. So how did the Pudang Mud Festival begin? What are some of the highlights this year? And do such festivities tangibly boost rural tourism? Welcome to Issues and Insiders. Today, we tell you how playing in the mud is worth the mess, especially in Pudang, starting today. For more on this, I have Professor Shin at Arirang University live on the line. Professor Shin, it's good to have you with us.
It's good to join again. Thank you.
I also have Kwon So with us. So, welcome back.
Hello, Sunny. Happy Friday.
Right, happy Friday. So, let's begin then with details about this year's Pudang Mud Festival.
Yes, Sunny, it is that time of the year where hundreds of thousands of people across the country and from all places around the world gather at Pudang's Daecheon beach to get dirty or muddy. Pudang is a city in Chungcheongnam-do province in central Korea, and Daecheon Beach is one of the most popular beaches on South Korea's western coast. So the annual Pudang Mud Festival this year, which is the 26th of its kind, has kicked off today, Friday, and runs until August 6th, so for 17 days. And that's a week longer than past Pudang Mud Festivals. Not only that, more areas will be used for festivities than in the past. And also the diverse experience programs have been expanded from 40 to 60. So it's expected to be a festival like no other after the long pandemic and an increase in tourists. Now, I have to mention, though, it's not the first time being held after COVID-19 because it was resumed last year, and also in 2021, it was an on and offline event with most of the big major events cancelled. So given its popularity, booking is a must. And the prices depend on whether it's a work day or weekend that you go, and also depending on the age, but it's pretty affordable. So what do you do at the festival? You bathe in the massive amounts of mud Pudang has to offer. You receive mud massages, play with the mud in all kinds of ways, throw it, smear it all over your body and face. And it also kind of reminds the world's people of the La Tomatina festival in Spain. Now, for families with young children, there are also kids zones and even extra venues for pets. Mud-based cosmetic products can also be purchased at discounted prices during the festival period. After all, Pudang is famous for its mud cosmetics. We'll get into that later in a bit again. Now, after enjoying daytime in the hot weather and cool mud, in the evening hours, numerous performances ignite the nights at the beach. The nightly mud mob dance, or mud DM, which involves EDM performances, are said to be held every day, as well as the busking performances. And you may want to keep these dates in mind, which I'm going to show you now. Here we see some special festivals and concerts coming up. So first we have on July 22nd, that's tomorrow, Saturday, there's the World K-pop Festival. So it's kind of the opening stage for the Pudang Mud Festival with 15 K-pop teams, including A-Pink, Itaewon, BI, and more. And then on July 23rd, also on August 1st, there's the Mud Big Concert, again with lots of performances, including band performances. July 29th, there's the GS25 Music and Beer Festival coming up, where you can enjoy music with fresh beer and foods. Also on July 29th, the Summer Swag Concert, and that involves Psy, famous world star Psy, and it's in Korean, it's also known as the so-called Humpok Show, which involves lots of water and Psy's powerful, energetic performances. August 4th and 5th, you can also see the Mud Nightstand and World DJ Festival, which is also going to be very big performances. Also the World DJ Festival Festival, as the name says, it does not only involve local DJs, but also global DJs as well. So those are some of the major K-pop and other festivals that are coming up. And the World K-pop Festival, meanwhile, on Saturday, tomorrow, will be free of charge. Now, earlier this week, the city had announced that it will be free for all Pudang citizens so that they can enjoy it without being burdened, and especially following the heavy rains recently. But then yesterday, reports said it's free for everyone, so all visitors. So it's going to be pretty much packed there, and those who already bought tickets will get a refund for this specific concert. Speaking of heavy rains and monsoon, the Black Eagles air show, South Korea's Air Force aerobatic flight team, has been inevitably cancelled due to flood recovery.
Right, I see. Meanwhile, Professor Shin, what led to the launch of the Pudang Mud Festival, and how popular has this festival been thus far?
Yes, Pudang, where the Mud Festival takes place, was previously ignored by tourists in the early 1990s due to its high prices and unclean water. Consequently, the local economy also suffered difficulties, and the local government had to find ways to revitalize the local economy. Particularly the mud, which is the major natural resource in the area, was utilized to develop mud pack cosmetics, and the Festival about Mud was planned to attract tourists. In 1998, the Mud Festival began, and it became popular among tourists. As a result, the festival received active support from the center and the local government, and has become a representative festival of South Korea. Before the COVID-19 period, the number of participants in the festival had increased nearly 20 times, and out of the approximately 2 million tourists, about 20% were foreigners, making the Pudang Mud Festival a global festival representing Korea. There are some reasons for the global success of this festival, but in my opinion, the festival where participants can enjoy various mud-related games and missions has been appealing to foreign tourists who value experiential programs. In addition, the combination of unique experiences, cultural immersion, and the element of fun makes the Mud Festival an attractive attraction for foreign tourists seeking something different and memorable during their travels.
Right, and it's also fun for adults and children alike, right? Now, so do tell us a bit more about the more popular attractions at the Pudang Mud Festival.
Well, I haven't been there myself, Sunny. However, I know that the giant mud bath, for one, is a very popular attraction. That's a huge tub filled with mud, of course, where you can get drenched in the mud. And the giant slide is also very popular. Again, as the name says, it's a giant slide where you slide into the mud. Also, mud body painting is one of the famous attractions there. If you're also into fun activities and competitions, you can take part in mud wrestling, tail catching games, and mud challenges. Mud challenge, for instance, I think maybe it was in last year's festival, I saw how people were trying to find objects inside the mud, for instance. Paduk, they were looking for paduk stones. And there's also a mud prison, and that is for people who have not gotten dirty enough or messy enough with mud. They are put into the mud prison. So that are some of the famous attractions you can enjoy there.
Right, I see. Professor Shin, what would you say is the impact of such festivals on perhaps boosting rural tourism?
Yeah, I would say in regional development, tourism development is one of the most crucial aspects. Festivals in particular are evaluated as a highly important tourism development approach because they can attract tourists while minimizing physical development and maximizing the utilization of local resources. Especially for rural areas, tourism industry and the local festivals play a significant role in revitalizing the local economy. As we know, rural areas face challenges associated with insufficient infrastructure and the absence of industrial facilities. Consequently, they are now experiencing a rapid decline in the working population. So, to stimulate the local economy, it is essential to attract tourists to encourage their local consumption. In addition, promoting local festivals can encourage local residents to participate in festival programs, which can also strengthen the community and the local brand identity. Lastly, according to a recent research, the quality of life for the local resident can be improved through festival participation. The direct engagement and participation in local festivals allow local residents to build a sense of community, which serves as a foundation for the success of festivals and becomes a significant social cultural asset for the region. So successful local festivals can bring not only economic effect, but also significant social cultural benefits.
Right, and that being said, Professor Shin, what then are the possible merits for foreign visitors who choose to partake in these regional cultural festivities?
Yeah, first of all, we need to acknowledge that about 80% of foreign tourists in Korea concentrate their visits in Seoul, Busan, and Jeju Island. In fact, they hardly visit other areas. Among various regions, I would highlight three main factors contributing to this issue, such as inadequate promotion of local tourist attractions, limited accessibility to local areas, and language barriers, which are particularly critical in local areas. However, I would like to emphasize that each region in Korea possesses unique culture and attractions with interesting tourism programs. By visiting regions with diverse cultural resources like this, foreign tourists can experience the various charms of Korea. One of the major local tourism attractions is local festival, and local tourists can have the opportunity to experience local culture by attending local festivals. They can also explore other tourist destinations while visiting local festivals, and once they have local travel experience, they can revisit the local areas in the future. In this regard, it's crucial to integrate festivals with regional attractions and create tourism packages for foreign tourists. This approach can help attract more foreign tourists to regions outside the major cities, which will contribute to the overall development of regional tourism in Korea.
Right, and hence Pudang is promoting its mud, right? So what are some of the merits of partaking in the mud festival in Pudang, Soa?
Well, Sunny, without doing any research, I would have to say the fun factor is the biggest merit. But different from other summer festivals, this one really has a plus when it comes to health benefits. Now, as Professor Shin briefly explained to us before, this Pudang Mud Festival was born from marketing Pudang Mud Cosmetics. And the festivities in the mud may look dirty at first glance, but the Pudang mud is famous for its pure cosmetics high in minerals. So according to the festival's organizers, the mud includes germanium and bentonite, and it emits significant amounts of far-infrared radiation, all of that having beauty and health benefits for the skin. What you can feel immediately is that the mud softens your skin, but what it also does is it helps in blood circulation, detoxifies, and balances pH levels. And it's even said to be used for trauma therapy. It's not any mud, though, that you can smear on your face and hope for those effects. The simple definition of mud would be wet soil, but it matters how it is formed and what gets in there while it is formed. So soils, salts, breakdown products of marine life, all of that undergoes long periods of geological, chemical, and microbial disintegration processes. So that's what you can all find in the Pudang mud. And the hundreds of tons of mud, meanwhile, that are used in the festival are taken directly from the Pudang mud flats and trucked to the Daecheon beach area. So you have the fresh benefits right from the mud flats throughout the festival event. And Sonia, another merit I would have to mention is getting rid of stress. So if people had stress over the first half of the year and want to get rid of that during their summer vacation, I think the Pudang Mud Festival would be a perfect solution.
I would love to go, Soa. But meanwhile, Professor Shin, on a more sober note, there have been reports of overpricing at food stalls at quite a number of festivals nationwide in recent days. First, what do you believe are some of the reasons behind this unfortunate reality?
Yes, it is important to note that the issue of overcharging in local tourist attractions, including local festivals, is not unique to Korea. Actually, it is a frequent problem in major tourist destinations in the world. The overpricing issue is rooted in the seasonal nature of the tourism industry's structure. This means that many tourism businesses strive to maximize profit during peak seasons, as they need to generate sufficient revenue to sustain their operations. As we see, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, this phenomenon has intensified. After a period of stagnation during the pandemic, tourism businesses are now focusing on increasing their sales. As a result, there has been an increase in cases where products and services are sold at higher prices than usual in tourist destinations and festival sites. In addition, the problem of overcharging can be worsened by migrant vendors. Migrant vendors are individuals operating booths or food trucks while moving between local festivals or regional tourist spots. In most cases, they face relatively high rental fees for short event periods. In this situation, to maximize their profits, they tend to set higher prices for their goods and services. So the issue of overpricing is influenced by several factors, including seasonality, the impact of COVID-19, and the presence of migrant vendors.
Right, indeed. And as Professor Shin has pointed out, overpricing, overcharging, it's not a Korean phenomenon. It is a universal reality. That being said, how are organizers at the Pudang Mud Festival seeking to ensure that overpricing does not occur?
Right. All over the world, people face the problem of overcharged prices when they travel, but it's also a local issue, for instance, when big festivals are held, just like the Pudang Mud Festival here. Now, food in particular, or accommodation prices can easily double depending on season and occasion. And ahead of the 26th Pudang Mud Festival, earlier on July 10th, the Dept Tourism Association organized a so-called resolution meeting where some 80 tourism workers, including representatives of merchants at Dept Beach, a pension association and fisheries merchants association participated, and also Mayor Kim Dong-il, the mayor of Pudang City, was there as well. And they vowed to practice fair prices for quality services. And on that occasion, they also promised to increase customer satisfaction by really thinking from the perspective of tourists and visitors. And apart from their resolute stance, there will also be a special price management team in operation during the festivities, and an unfair price reporting center will be operating as well. But not only the vendors can actually be blamed for the high prices, as they also have to pay the price for the booths there as well. And also in many cases, these vendors have to pay local governments to participate in a specific event.
Right, of course. And that being said, Professor Shin, is there something more that the government can do to discourage overpricing at such events?
Yes, as mentioned earlier, the issue of overpricing is based on the structural characteristics of the tourism industry. That is the reason why it is difficult to completely eliminate overpricing in tourism. However, we can come up with several strategies to reduce overpricing cases in local festivals. In my view, there are two types of measures that both central and local government can implement, such as pre-measures and post-measures. Pre-measures involve policies to prevent overpricing in the first place. The government is currently conducting various campaigns and plans to strengthen monitoring by announcing prices of major product and food items at tourist destinations. Specifically, transparent criteria should be established for rental fees and commissions, and prices should be disclosed in advance through negotiations with participating tourism businesses. On the other hand, post measures are aimed at preventing recurrence of overcharging issues once they have already occurred. Examples include implementing a reporting system for festival participants and utilizing visitor complaint boards. In addition, the government conducts festival assessment every year, and incorporating the evaluation result of overcharging cases into the festival assessment can be considered as well. Most importantly, it is crucial to emphasize that overpricing in local festivals or tourist attractions does not contribute to the sustainable growth of regional tourism.
Right, a valid point right there, of course. And so before we continue further, could you very briefly give us a few examples about the overpricing in such events?
Well, one example is an entertainment show on a major broadcasting played a big role in bringing up the issue of overcharging recently because a group of celebrities were traveling and they were at a festival in Yeongyang County, Gyeongsangbuk-do Province. There, a vendor was trying to sell them a bag of local traditional sweets for 70,000 won. That's almost $55 US. And after negotiations, they got free bags for 140,000 won. So after this, criticism aroused from viewers on how much vendors are ripping customers off. And then another example would be on Jeju-do Island. Cutlass fish course meal there can cost up to 140,000 won per table. And in many cases, what's expensive is at places where you have no other option. For instance, one experience that I had was I was at an outdoor music festival and you couldn't go somewhere else to get food. So you have to get you don't have any alternatives. So I had to get a small beef of platter for 40,000 won. That's more than $31 US. So that's from my own experience.
Right, I see. And Professor Shin, there is concern, therefore, that such cases of overpricing as well as overcrowding itself at some events may force Koreans to look abroad in search of leisure and pleasure rather than stay here in the country. What are your thoughts, very briefly speaking?
During the COVID-19 pandemic, most people in Korea traveled in domestic destinations, and it is natural to expect an increase in demand for overseas destinations nowadays. However, there are some concerns about these issues, such as overpricing in local tourist attractions and inadequate management of visitor numbers, which can further strengthen this trend. In fact, in a recent survey, many domestic tourists experienced overcharging and service quality issues in local destinations. As a result, they responded that they are considering overseas destinations for their next vacation. Therefore, local destinations need to focus on stabilizing tourism prices and improving service quality. In addition, I believe that now is the right time to change the flow of local festivals in Korea, which have been mainly targeted at domestic visitors. Recently, there has been a growing interest in K-culture among foreigners, and the number of potential foreign tourists is increasing as well. With this in mind, it is the right moment to plan internationalized local tourism festivals that cater to both domestic and foreign visitors. By actively attracting foreign tourists and designing festivals that appeal to both local and international visitors, it might be possible to offset the potential decline in domestic tourism demand. It is time for Korean local festivals to strive for a balance between preserving their local identity while aiming for internationalization.
Right, indeed, Professor. All right, then that's all the time we have today. Professor Shin, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today. And so here in the studio, thank you very much for your insights.
As always. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Right, well, for those of you who have yet to make weekend plans, the trip to Pudang to partake in this year's Mud Festival may be a fun option. Have a good weekend.